stressful for both of these players coming into this best of 3. Starting off on Gressvan, in the bottom right is the Red Terror, and we have Shopify Rebellion's ByuN.
In the top left-hand corner, our blue Zerg player from Onside Gaming, Solar.
Recently made a tweet with Neeb in a uniform again.
Yeah, man, Onside are just... I don't know what's going on, man. Like,
they're crazy.
Neeb's back in Korea,
apparently
studying, and then they're just like, hey, guess who's back? But we don't know if he is, but he might be.
But he might be. You don't know, but we might be. Actually, we already have a bit of a difference here. ByuN going to go for a command center first. So he has been mixing back in those non-2 racks, low ground 2 racks openers. But like I said, he really has gone, at least on the online cups, right, the last 2 months, putting those 2 racks down about 90% of the time. And then every so often, okay, fine, a command center first, maybe a 1 racks expand. But obviously this one, the command center first, not anticipating anything that Solar can do to punish it. And really, there's not a whole lot. As far as a typical early pool goes, it doesn't punish command center first. Solar incredibly unlikely to do something like a proxy hatch.
Yeah, blind roach rush is like the other kind of alternative, right? And it's like,
yeah.
But then it's just, is he going to do that first game? Gressvan, I don't think so. So I think it's a good choice. You get a little bit greedy early as ByuN. He is going to go double gas, so we'll have that faster factor on the follow-up. The scary thing, of course, from ByuN is, well, actually even does exactly this. This is what I was going to bring up. I didn't realize he gets the second gas so soon, but double racks, so you just 2-1-1 from this. You've got strong economy. You do exactly what you love to do as ByuN, which is you just have a ton of Marines, medevacs. You're on the map early. You're being aggressive. You're trading out. And the Zerg can't miss a beat because you've got that strong CC first economy back at home.
Yep, yeah, it can be pretty brutal. And the follow-ups are also, well, not unlimited, but the follow-ups can include a 2 base attack, which personally I'm not actually that big of a fan of, but I know that the Terrans have been mixing it in. So Solar is going to be able to identify this soon enough, simply with the amount of Marines that pop out. You can identify that's on a Hellion opener, obviously the CC first. It's going to be scouted by an Overlord or the Sling, either one. And then again, Solar just playing that macro game for the Zerg is going to be trying to size up exactly what the best defense is. And defending the first 2-1-1, the actual 2-1-1 attack, that's usually easy enough, even with the likes of ByuN, but it's the follow-up again that's tricky.
Yeah, no, there's so many different ways to do it as well, because then you can take that third CC, or you can add on extra racks and really just hardcore go on 2 bases, right? And ByuN is so capable of doing all of those. He started up Stim, he cancelled up Stim, and we're going to wait a few more moments here. I guess we're going to go Starport Reactor, and I mean, no Stim's kind of completely wild.
It doesn't make any sense for me.
Unless you play Starport on the Tech Lab
Oh
CG.
my gosh, he got scouted and he's changing it. Oh wow, okay, that's interesting.
Usually
so
just go.
Wait a minute, like what is he gonna do? Go Banshees and then a 2-1-1? Well, I mean, it's not really a 2-1-1 at that point, but you get what I mean.
I actually have no idea. This is because sure, like sometimes you get scouted in StarCraft 2 games, and you're like, well, I'm gonna trick my opponent and do something else that might not be great efficiency-wise of my build, but he's expecting one thing, I'll do something else. This is like he's like a build which you don't need to not, you can still go.
Yeah.
You can still put on pressure, you still force units, but maybe now he feels, I'm going to force those units anyway because he knows it's coming. I'm going to get Cloak Banshees, which is completely unexpected, and if he completely skips Spores and double Banshee shows up, I mean, it could be really deadly.
That's true, but how late are double Banshee going to show up? I mean, it's not like he's going to be without detection, I would assume.
Well, no. I mean, if he goes like double Evos.
Yeah, actually.
Or like.
I really want to be impressed with the big brain. Oh no,
okay.
We're good. I really want to be impressed with the big brain of this, but man, I have my reservations about some later Banshee timings. But this might work out brilliantly. We actually have a single engineering bay on the way as well, which I do wonder if that's not towards a follow-up 2 base, which I'm sure Solar is primarily thinking about that, like either a follow-up 2 base or even like a 4-axe or whatever.
Single Banshee, by the way, now a medevac. What is going on? Every part of this build is just completely bonkers. I mean, if we don't know what's going on and we're watching it, Solar has no idea what's going on. I think Solar has a rough idea of what he thinks is going on, but it isn't what he thinks it is. One Banshee in the right place could still be very annoying here. Force drones to pull away, something you have to look at. ByuN realistically should cloak before he goes anywhere near any creep, just because he wants to get in there unseen. And yeah, he's just going to start flying over and just going to go and get some drones somewhere. I mean, there's mineral lines available to him. There is one spore in the main base, but that's the only spore, I believe.
Yeah, Lair's only just started up, so this Banshee will find some pretty nice damage. And there's just like nothing Solar can do. He's just going to panic. Pull the drones every which way, hope that eventually the Banshee runs out of energy, and eventually it will, but it's already done at least that damage, right? Like, the amount of drones might not get insane, but a lot of lost mining time, a lot of panic, a lot of chaos. I was wondering if he was going to pair this up with an additional attack with the Marines on the front. So far, not going to do that, and I think that might be best. Solar did make a decent ground army to defend specifically a ground attack. The Banshee is the huge surprise. Okay, but now the medevac's out, he's going to go ahead and move on over. Lings are available. Baneling Nest was made. Were any Banelings made?
Well, maybe Solar's just like, yeah, there's a second Banshee coming. There's never going to be a Marine push. I mean, that's the logic I'm working with here, and honestly, it looks like it might work out because there's only Lings and Queens. That's a lot of Marines. This isn't just 16, right? There's a little bit more, which means that little bit of extra firepower. Ling Queen on its own will not do this. Now that Lings start to engage after we lost a couple of Queens already, and as we kite backwards, we're just doing a great job of this. We're also moments away from +1 in combat shield, which means these Marines will be even better. Now is the time to start making some Banelings, but even then, we're still a way off Baneling speed. And ByuN's just going to keep on powering up. Banshee comes back in as well. We'll just sit on the edges, get a couple more drones, and just be annoying. Love what ByuN's getting done so far. I feel like he's put himself in a great position as he might get some of these Banelings when they first start moving forward.
There's one thing that ByuN's really good at is making the Zerg kind of confused, having, you know, not the most ideal macro setup when we compare it to like Clem's 3cc double engineering bay all the time, right? But then still making it into a macro game. So that single engineering bay, I mean, in the past for non-ByuN games was usually a sign of a, you know, really dedicated aggression, but not for ByuN. 3rd CC is now down, 2nd engineer bay is on the way. He will still have, yeah, better upgrades than his opponent. Solar had to wait so long to get the evolution chambers confidently, and then only got the +1 carapace as soon as possible to avoid the melee. He is going to defend the front lines, and there is absolutely still that chance for Solar to bring this back and recover, but first he does have to stabilize, and stabilizing is proving to be a bit difficult.
It absolutely is. We've got a Banshee still picking away at an Extractor. Had a couple more drones as well. Just forces Solar to look over here, move the Spore. Meanwhile, you've got Marines on your front doorstep, and ByuN's getting more and more powerful. Further upgrades are coming in. Solar's still working off of 0-0 right now, and ByuN just working his way up. No creep spread allowed because of all of this map control as well. And these are all things which, even if they don't win the game for ByuN right now, it sets them up so beautifully for later on.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of surprised he didn't follow up with a couple of tanks, but those Widow Mines do just kind of accelerate. They keep the momentum going, right? So the tanks might be able to abuse this position on Grestfon perhaps, I mean, a little bit more, but obviously the Widow Mines are doing a wonderful job supporting the Marines, which have really been a highlight here. They are constantly pressuring that base. A little bit late to the pullback, but then the Widow Mines actually get a nice shot, and more Marines rally forward. SCV's under attack by Solar's run by, but the Baneling numbers, I think, are almost entirely gone. Some just got made. Will it be enough to hold on Solar's side of the map, as his run by did do a tremendous amount of damage, and look at that, to pick up the retreat. Solar now finally ahead on that supply.
Yeah, he is starting to look a whole lot better. That run by was not well handled at all from ByuN. I really thought he saw it coming, he raised it deeper. I thought he was going to pull the SCVs like toward the Widow Mine at least, but he just didn't do that. And because of that, you get so many SCVs, and that's extremely expensive. Now the Terran is going to struggle to keep up production, and Solar gets some breathing room instantly. The Hydra Den is coming on down. And with that Hydraless Den on the way, we are just straight into the next stage of the game, which it didn't feel like Solar was ever going to get to originally.
I thought he was going to be in a lot of trouble, but that SCV kill amount was just kind of absurd for that single Ling run by. No Banelings included, no follow-up to it. Just that ByuN thought he had so much momentum. He really wanted to carry on the momentum. Everything got sent to the front lines. And it did create this awkward situation where now ByuN is trying to do that damage rather than just continuing to do that damage. Now we have some Banelings running by, and as enough to chase after. This time ByuN responds quite well. He has a 4th CC already done, by the way. And yeah, we're very much heading into that later stage of TVZ.
Yeah, what a great comeback from Solar. He really was in trouble. Everything ByuN did in the first 6-7 minutes was so good. That one run by did so much unraveling of ByuN's setup, and now it is an even game, right? If this was an even game before, ByuN would be losing. It's just he was that far ahead. We do get this reset, and like you say, the later stage of this TVZ, the micro continues, the macro continues. You see Solar heading into an infestation pit. Further down the line, he's obviously thinking Vipers, he's obviously thinking Lurkers. That, to me, is one of the best parts of Solar's players of late. Just the Lurker style is very good for him, if he can get there.
Well, I do have to mention that ByuN has played some incredible late-game TVZ recently. So, I mean, you know, kind of typically with TVZ, we kind of get more excited for the Terran's aggression in the early and mid-game and the Zerg's defense. That's just, most of the TPZs play out. And then we wonder, like, who is better of the players in that late game? And you might default to Solar because he's such a great defensive Zerg, but ByuN has really been quite annoying in that late game in the best way possible. I mean, annoying to his opponents. So even though his aggression didn't end up winning him the game, he doesn't actually even have a lead, he's kind of just trying to clear up some creep, find some decent battles. I have a lot of confidence in his ability to get to that late game. Solar trying to take a bit of an engagement, actually off of creep, feeling confident, but ByuN just pulling back, and he's got to respect Solar at this point, who really is starting to take over the map.
Yes, the creep spread was so heavily delayed early, and now we're going to get that out there. We're going to push it forward, get in front of some of these bases. There's that aforementioned Lurker Den coming through as well from Solar. The setup is great. ByuN still has some good pressure to apply, but he's also going to have to start thinking about getting later into this game himself. He's going to have to start thinking about a Ghost Academy, some Ghost, because we're not far from the point where the Zerg just overwhelms you if you don't tech up beyond Biomine.
Yeah, exactly. It is kind of concerning. That Lurker Den going to finish up with the Hive, immediately start up those upgrades, and of course Hydras are available for whenever Solar thinks it is opportune to get those Lurkers. Marines almost getting surrounded, attempts at Baneling sniping. Kind of want to ride there, and ByuN is forced to back away yet again. Not actually losing too much, and a couple of sprinkling of Marines all over the map, suddenly causing problems for Solar's economy.
Yep, this is what ByuN does well. He's everywhere sometimes. He just drops here, he drops there. 12 drones dead already. The main drop is just not doing anything.
Hello.
In fact, it's going to get the Lurker Den now. It's not being dealt with at all. This Lurker Den's continuing to drop. We're going to have to build a new one, and that's massive because no Lurkers were made, I believe. And of course, no Lurker upgrades can start during this time as well, which is one of the main things you need for your Lurkers to be good.
You know, he just pushed back kind of the main attack. I would not be surprised if Solar was getting ready to both start up all those upgrades, but then start up a couple of Lurkers, and instead, just a couple of drops, literally 2 with a handful of Marines, has really stopped that flow. He'll be able to reset. He's not, down and out because of it, but it is going to be a little more awkward as the pacing of this game once again feels good for ByuN as he attacks up the middle, stimming and splitting Widowmines, splashing every which way. The supply ends up looking similar as once again ByuN is attacking this position. I don't know if he can break Solar, but it is amazing how much it feels like other Terran players would be just like, you know what, I'm done on the map. You got it. I give up. And ByuN just continues to reinitiate.
I was going to say, we'd love just to see a scan here, clean up this little bit of creep, because then you're right back into that super annoying position where you can hit the high ground base from the low ground as well. So you can really control this area. That Widowmine recharges, which is very cute. We do see the big drop into the main base. Solar gets a tiny heads up, but ByuN will be mostly unloaded. And this is where the new Lurker Den is. Lose a Lurker Den once, that's okay. Lose it twice, I think we're really having a bad time. Upgrade denied. Parasitic bombs on the Medivacs. We stand and fight against the Lings for a while. We'll load up in the non-parasitic bomb Medivacs. This hatchery may be in some trouble if we can just target it down. The Vipers come back over. We'll lose one of those. ByuN doesn't get the hatch, but he's going to lift up, get back, and I think he's very happy with how this turned out.
Yeah, the speed is still incredible, especially when you consider that ByuN has talked about some problems with his wrist, specifically when it comes to offline play, but he is playing so fast right now. Now, Solar is keeping up for the most part, but again, his whole entire game plan, right? The ebb and flow, the usual peaceful moment that you have to get to that Lurker Den, it keeps on getting interrupted. He keeps on losing it, so he can't even get those upgrades. So the powerful, good Lurkers are even farther away. Plain old Lurkers might help you defend a couple of locations, but you want those upgrades.
Starting to get to the point where it's getting a little messy as well for Solar against these mines. There's just a lot going on. It's easy to miss one. It's easy to let it go off in the dead center of your army. So got to keep our eyes on those as these Hydras need to be careful chasing. Yeah, there's a couple of Banelings. There's Lings from the other side. ByuN stands and fights for a while. Now some Banelings start to get through. The Bio continues to kite away. Looks as though we're good for the moment as ByuN is going to just keep up the pressure. Still on the other side with a drop. That now gets cleaned out. So does he finally have some peace and quiet? No, because ByuN's back on the map with the main army coming forward yet again. But 7 Lurkers on the way, ZG. This should finally be the thing that slows this game down.
It should be, but again, those are unupgraded, and there are so many places to defend that if you were to instance divvy up your Lurkers 2 on each base, that is something that ByuN could take care of as long as he knows to scan ahead of time. He will get that concave, he will destroy your Lurkers. So absolutely, they usually cause a real difference in that pacing, but I don't know about this game. And by the way, I love that ByuN has stuck purely on Bio for this time. If he ever gets a whiff of those Lurkers, he might start adding in those Ghosts. But without those Ghosts, he really has been able to be as fast as a Terran can be. Bio Widowmine just continuing to hammer this base.
Absolutely, just pushing up. We're going to see these Balins start coming through. The Viper overhead. He needs to be careful, otherwise it's going to go down. It will go down. Drop the Parasitic Bomb, gets one medevac. ByuN starts to kite back once more as the Lingbane Hydra is happy to push down the ramp, but really doesn't want to chase off Creep. That's where you run into a disaster. But that means that this position is still held, but there's the Lurkers there, so ByuN can't successfully drop on top. He has now got Ghosts on the way. That's an important addition to his army. It was always essential once we got later on. He really did a great job of delaying this point of the game coming around, but it is finally here.
It is, yeah. You know, we're talking about ByuN a lot as he is the one pushing that aggression, but Solar, again, his defense is incredible. He has still have a lot of creep spread on the map as well, so we can see the incoming drops to the bottom left. So far able to save those bases, and he's finally getting some of those lurker upgrades. The range is done, the speed is on the way for that burrow, and he is tracking the army relatively well. I am still concerned that, you know, it's never really going to slow down, because ByuN, he might slow down a little with Ghosts as they can't stim, right? But he usually does a great job of continuing aggression like this with Ghosts in multiple control groups, multiple attacks. So it's not the end for Solar. I love the run-by attempt again, but this isn't going to work out. By the way, a 5th base as an orbital. ByuN feels that his aggression has worked out so well that he can keep that base alive without the help of a planetary.
Which, with the way he's been playing, is probably true, because Solar's not been across the map since that earlier run-by. We've not seen anything from him aggressive. But at the same time, the game's about to be very different, so it might be a bit of a miscall, as that's a great set. Parasitic Bombs, double kill, gets the Hydras to kill another. This full cleanup up on the top side is a nice little something from Solar, and just, he gets rid of some pressure that ByuN had, forces him to replace quite a lot of supply, actually.
Yeah, I'm actually a bit worried for ByuN now. That's going to be the biggest stop, I feel like, in his attacks for a while at this point. He scans ahead, sees a giant Zerg army. He's actually going to retreat back into Ghost. So this is where Solar also has to kind of identify, oh, okay, that unit is now in play. So whenever he overreaches, there'll be much more of a punish with the snipes. Love the Lurkers' attempt to go for a run-by, but there are some Ghosts prepared for that. ByuN still on the forward aggression, is paying attention, can always retreat back to some further reinforcements, but he can't retreat back to a planetary. That's where his orbital is.
Yep, absolutely. The Lurkers make a dive on the bottom side at the same time, and there's a bit of a mixture of things going on down there. As the Ghosts get sniping, the Lurkers are fighting back. It's a full-on trade out, but that feels pretty good for the Zerg. The Lurkers feel a bit more replaceable than Ghosts do. As ByuN loses control in the front, he will lose this orbital, and Solar takes down 17 SCVs, pretty much all of the Ghosts, and he is going to be extremely happy. Rebuilding, already maxed. In a moment, he'll be set to go once again, and ByuN, now he's going to be the one under repeated pressure. Yeah,
he's in a lot of trouble at this point. Now Solar can size up any engagement that he wants to take, right? Offensively off of Creep is totally fine now for Solar, who is building that bank as well. 85 drones, lots of bases, replacing Creep that has never really existed in the middle of the map, but has existed elsewhere. So now he's just going to take over the entire map. And ByuN, I don't think he wants to sit back and play that kind of Morrow defense game, right? But with Solar's aggression, his run-bys, those are cracklings, by the way. There's not a lot of other options most of the time, unless Solar over-dedicates. And then maybe the momentum can swing again, but that's kind of the Terran's hope at this point.
Yes, the kind of the back and forth kind of aspect of it, but I really feel like at this stage we knocked down some rocks. We're just going to get ready to keep on going from Solar. He's already diving towards this bottom side where there is the Terran army in decent amounts, and obviously SimCity is on your side as the Terran, so don't overcommit through. Like you're saying, this is where the Terran can maybe get back in it. We're going to have a couple of those Ghosts going off, but at the same time, Solar, he's on the right side as well, and that's just an unprotected base. The SCVs all go down. He will chase a little while over here. Some Bayans try to clean up some of the mines. I think still, obviously, ByuN is just losing out. Solar's instantly rebuilding, and he has all the bases to do this for quite a long time.
Yeah. We haven't even really gotten to the point of all the Zerg things anyways, right? Like, the Lurkers made a brief appearance. They haven't been remade, which I actually prefer in the late-game TVZ, but then I'm thinking Nidus Worms, too, right? We haven't even seen the classic double Nidus Worms, which are going to add to ByuN's problems as he continues to have a tough time getting over that 150 supply, much less up to 180 or nowhere near max. This is a very difficult game. ByuN refuses to be, I guess, cornered. He's out on the map again, but he's got to be so careful about this.
Yeah, I guess activity in some way stops the Zerg from dictating the fights and getting set up with the Lurkers, but again, he doesn't feel like he's got an army to really rush in. So the moment Solar's there, he's running, he's kiting backwards, and that allows you to take some decent trades. But Solar, if he gets far enough forward, can just project this into the next attack.
This time Planetary is here to help, which really is going to be nice. As you pointed out, the style of the game has changed. The Orbital was great in the first 15 minutes, but oh, okay, not so much now. But as ByuN dips even further in supply, that is going to be Solar's victory, a fantastic one as well. Again, ByuN being the aggressive one for like 70% of that game. We talked a lot about him and his speed and his aggression and the excitement that is TVZ, but then Solar, just with that macro, the solid defense, of course, that comeback earlier on as well. This is why we always like kind of say like he deserves this championship, you know, this, that, or the other, and it's been so long since he had one. Very, very true. No, it was, first 7 minutes was so cool from ByuN. Like, it wasn't ordinary. It was like a single cloak Banshee instead of getting the snip straight away. Like, all of this trickery, and this run by obviously undid everything. I'm so surprised he didn't pull the SCVs to the right side towards the wall, because even then, at least you're kind of pushing them towards a couple of Marines, right? You probably save a few extra. And obviously during that, he didn't exactly take the best fights across the map, and that really just undid everything he'd set up for early. And then Solar survived, and he survived, and ByuN did a great job, like you say, of being aggressive all the time. Solar just did a better job of surviving. Even with the Lurker Den killed off twice, even with that delay, he just said, right, well, okay, the time is reset, I've got to do it all again, but he did it again. He didn't let ByuN ever break through, and obviously, moments like this are just consistently very good for Solar. Yeah, it was a double whammy. It was a lot of Ghost traded out, and the Orbital died, of course. But, you know, even though Solar did end up, you know, finishing this game with, you know, Mass, Lurker, or those Nidus rooms that I was talking about, it usually is such an important stopgap for the Zerg to get to those Lurkers when they're under that insane amount of pressure. So make no mistake, it's still a big deal. Those Lurker Dens were denied, but then it almost looked like it didn't matter, right? Because Solar had such a dominating way of playing that late game out, and ByuN just really could not get his standing again. He couldn't get his feet set again, which is what he needed to do, because he still had enough economy and he still had the production, but he never really took those like slightly better trades. Solar didn't over-dedicate, and then it really did just add up to the point that at the end there, Solar was ahead 80 supply. Yes. It just slowly broke down for ByuN. He just slowly couldn't kind of keep up as much as he was doing so initially. Time to head into game number 2, where ByuN has to, I mean, very creative game 1, has to obviously reset and maybe get that creative again in game 2. He can clearly put himself in great positions, and he can clearly, even when the game's fairly even, be very controlling. Just has to be a little bit better on that transition, has to be a bit ready, you know, a bit more ready to play later in the game. As we have Solar up 1 on the stage here in the ESL SC2 Masters. Again, kind of crazy. Big matches so early in the day, first day. It's a new feeling for these events, DG. It is a very new feeling. I was looking at the stats about this year. As we had pointed out, they play so often against each other in all these cups and GSL and all that good stuff. And ByuN really, well, I guess in terms of matches isn't so far ahead, but 5-7 in ByuN's favor. And most recently, had taken the last 2 series against Solar. I came in thinking ByuN was favored, and of course he can still bring it back, but Solar definitely looking on point. I know Pig mentioned on the desk, you know, you could just kind of go either way, right? The caster thing, but seriously, you can kind of tell when Solar is not going to have the best tournament and when he's going to have a really good tournament, and this feels like a very good tournament, Solar. Absolutely. As we're going to start this one off in the top right-hand side of Royal Blood, from the Shopify Rebellion, our Red Terran is ByuN. In the bottom left, as the blue Zerg for Onside Gaming, he is Solar. Barracks is on the low ground, right? Yes. Cool. So I was afraid he was going to do all 3 games today without doing this at all and make me look stupid. Yeah, I mean, this has just been... I mean, to be fair, so originally Maru was doing this a little bit on Grezvan, and then ByuN was like, okay, yeah, this is fun on Grezvan. Then ByuN was like, hey, what if we do this on every map? And pretty much no other Terran followed him in this ideology, right? Yeah. But just ByuN, he's like, that's actually really good, guys. Yep, yep. Yeah, I remember when it started off on Moondance, you know, I thought that was particularly clever because you could wall and then take the 3rd CC or not. That added to the mystery again, but that was still very experimental. Very rare to see that. And then now, particularly with ByuN, you're seeing it on every single map. In all the positions as well, you know, the whole add-on dilemma of Terrans doesn't seem to phase him too much. And there's a reason for that, of course, which is that this does give you the benefit of the early game. Because there is, you know, the amount of scouting you get from Reapers, plus the production of 2 racks versus 1, and just, you know, the micro of Reapers. There's not a lot of the early cheeses or attacks that can actually punish this. We saw Zergs try when this was getting popular, and ByuN would not have the perfect handle because he was still experimenting with it. And then for the last month and a half, I feel like, you know, Dark tries to cheese it occasionally. And it's kind of terrible. ByuN's way too good at buying time and defending.
Yes. It's kind of crazy just how you can be that good with like a few Reapers just to like deny what should be so good against it. And there's a reason why ByuN is the one that's doing this, and not really anyone else. There's a couple of people that dabble in it, but ByuN really is the master of this style. And we'll see how he does here. Already gets one Zergling early, which is nice. He's got extra Reapers coming. And it isn't going to be that aggressive behind this in terms of, you know, more Reapers. He's going to go Reactor Tech Lab, but he is adding on Barracks number 3, which means you get yourself into a very quick kind of upgrade. You get yourself into a lot of bio units. And then we've seen ByuN be extremely aggressive from there in some of these games in the past.
I was waiting to see if it go 4x, but open 3. All right, so we have still continued aggression. It's not really the point of the Reapers is not to get a bunch of drones. I mean, we kind of estimate that Zergs take Ling damage to this, basically, despite there being 3 Reapers instead of 1, but no drones, no queens. But ByuN does sometimes find that, and it can be tricky, or he runs into Lings. Okay, he's going to be all fancy about it. Look at the fight,
he's just being ByuN.
Okay.
Like, okay, he's not being ByuN.
Never mind.
It was a cool idea until he jumped all 3 up, and you know, one of them was 1 hit from death. That was maybe not quite it, but just trying to get as much as possible. It is one of those scenarios where obviously keeping the Reapers alive is nice, but as Ling speed finishes, they're not going to do too much extra, so losing the one's like, yeah, it was unnecessary, but it's not going to be super terrible. There is going to be that second tech lab in the main base as well as Stimpak's already a good way along. If we start Combat Shield now, it's going to time together, and again, we can have a good first 3 racks push if we want to go across the map.
Yes, yeah, that's very possible. For ByuN, I mean, this could still be a concerning time as he really doesn't know what Solar is doing. Roaches, mid-game, or not mid-game, but like later, early game, all in. But assuming that that is not happening, and Solar is usually the person that you would assume, yep, drones, 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 more drones. ByuN can focus on his follow-up, which very well could be moving out with these Marines and trying to maybe not pull the trigger, but certainly scare Solar. Solar has got to respect all of the various options as the follow-up, as his Ling Scout, of course, can't get in, and an Overlord shouldn't be able to get in. And we haven't seen too many Zergs try and get like Overlord speed against ByuN, even though that would have helped with the follow-up scout. Most of them don't do it.
Maybe most of them can't afford to do it, right? It's like,
I think that is the conundrum.
Yeah.
100%.
It's 100 gas. It's super early in the game. It slows you down in a big way. And if ByuN isn't doing anything super weird, you're in trouble because he's so good aggressively. And then even if he is doing something weird, it's still 100 gas you don't have. Yeah, you know it's coming, but then the preparation, the 100 gas, it's not as many minerals mined. The entire situation just becomes that much weirder as the Overlord will see this move out. Solar has a Baneling Nest on the way. A couple of Banelings feel pretty important here just to force the Marines to split apart a little bit, or at least start target firing instead of just letting the Lings run into a lot of stimmed combat shielded Marines.
Yeah. This is a difficult push to hold perfectly. Again, not necessarily pulling the trigger and having enough units, but just not under-droning or over-droning, of course. A lot of queens does help out, especially if they have got those transfuses, and they indeed do. One queen goes down, but the Banelings are on the way. Second queen goes down as well. How long is ByuN going to stick around? Third queen dies. There's still so many left over. We're still injecting. We're still creep spreading. 5 Marines went down, which I would say, you know, this is a good trade and all that. But Solar, now is the question, is he going to read the follow-up correctly? Is he going to drone when appropriate? Or is he going to underestimate the follow-up? There are a decent amount of Marines coming on up here. Starport almost done. So medevacs are not involved yet. But we do have some tanks on the way, too. So we didn't have any tanks last game, which would have slowed him down, but then had that beautiful position on Grespon. He's going to try and find a position here on Royal Blood.
Yeah, I like what we've done so far. ByuN, he got a bit of damage, and then he was like, okay, step back. And right now, this is not a good fight for Solar. Off creep is generally not great. ByuN is trying to target fire down Banes. He's taking Lings as he steps back. He is going to get surrounded. He has to try and dive up the side. The Banes get a catch. He'll turn around for the other Banelings. Now I don't love it so much because your Marine count getting reset undoes all of your future pressure. That was a way better trade for Solar. He's caught right back up from what happened earlier. And yeah, ByuN's going to be kicking himself for that.
Yeah, now there's not going to be any follow-up with those tanks.
Yeah.
I mean, that's way too... he's building Liberators, though. It very much looks like he's absolutely planning on doing this siege attack, right? Which, again, further forces the Zerg player to make those tough decisions. Do I take this ultra seriously, or this guy macroing behind it? Do I take it not seriously and then die to it anyways? Now it's pretty easy. You're just not going to die to it. You know, maybe ByuN doesn't even do it anymore. So Solar with excellent engagements. I feel like the almost mistiming of the Ling surround that worked in his favor, where ByuN was just like, oh no, this is good. Oh no, it's bad. Like he just didn't anticipate that, as it was a little late. But it worked out wonderfully for Solar, who does seem to be kind of coasting at this point. And the creep spread is going to be totally fine too, something that those Marines were supposed to at least halt to a certain degree. Now they can't. I still need to do the tank push. I wonder, Wardy.
Yeah, he's going to give it a go, but his libs avoid the Lings. That's nice. I mean, you can still maybe set up some chaos. It's going to be a fun position with the tank just supporting the ramp. It's just not a lot of stuff, right? This has got to be ByuN kind of saying, hey, look, I'm still scary, and Solar needs to respect it, but actually Solar could just overrun it if he really wanted to. But it's that call of like, am I really in a good position? Like identifying how much you did earlier. The libs will set up during this, and with double lib and no spores, it's going to be kind of annoying. We do jump in the main base. The first medevac's gone down. The tank is shelling away. We are killing drones. This is adding up now. We are getting some damage done, and ByuN might be in an okay-ish spot coming out of this. He will lose this final tank. We killed a few drones. Worker count especially is very close together, and that's going to mean that ByuN's army shouldn't be too far behind in the near future.
No doubt the double Liberator hitting 2 different locations while the Queens were still very helpful, maybe necessary on the front lines. Like, no doubt that was a good tactic. 7 drones go down, lots of lost mining time. But Solar did end up cleaning up the push after already having the other cleanup pretty quickly. Fit in those drones, fit in that 4th base. Still has this creep spread because this wasn't an attack that cleaned that up. And, I mean, the upgrades will even up as well. So, okay, yeah, maybe Solar took some damage. Maybe it could have been handled better, but I still feel like momentum is absolutely on his side. ByuN only now turning his 3rd command center into an orbital.
Especially the fact that now Solar can just get the Hydra Den up so much more easily. Last time you had to really fight for a moment to get the Hydra Den. He's just getting it whenever he wants to at this point. And there's another siege tank that's just kind of doing a little bit. It is a distraction though. We are going to get a few drones down here, and Overlord as well. Will we be able to get the hatchery before the respawn shows up? I actually think so. ByuN scans, he realizes, oh yeah, this is a base. 5th hatchery goes down, so nice grab here. Going to turn around and get a few Lings before we play the lift up and get out of their game with the medevacs. Because we have 1 Ling across the map, that's not going to do too much. Solar is getting into those Hydras, a bit of a sturdier overall force than just pure Ling Bane. But yeah, ByuN getting a little bit more done, and again, the supplies are kind of close. I know Solar's had some of the tech and everything, but I don't really feel like he's got so much tech now that it makes up for equal supplies.
Yeah, that 5th base felt like a big weakness, right? Like, if he was consolidated on 4 bases and that was a growing 5th, his easy cancel drones are over there. It's, you know, still, if you can get 5 bases up and running, all more power to you, but that's almost seemed like a reach, and he just didn't defend it. No doubt about it, that was a easy pickup for ByuN. That definitely helps his case. It was a bit of a magic maneuver. He was a bit of a magician. Look over here. Okay, I'm attacking on the 5th, actually, which he'll continue to do. Now we just call it a double-pronged attack, of course. Solar is still heading into this kind of mid to late game where he did win last game. See if he can do it again. Trying to go up a ramp against a couple of tanks, though. Not working out super well. ByuN starting to get a handle on the map once again. Actually engaging on Solar's side with an intimidating army, which was not necessarily the case earlier on.
Tanks in pretty nice positions, right? Up in corners, minimizing, like, you know, potential surrounds. Still's going to pull the trigger and go. These tanks are going to get a lot of shots off. Banelings are struggling to find any connections here. An extra wave should be able to really start pushing ByuN much further back now. Remember, ByuN has a sizable amount of units in the bottom right as well. They should come into play soon. They're going to start making a stim for a base, and even reinforcements over here believe they can show up. The Hydras have been left alone. The Queens are fighting. Every Hydra goes down. ByuN is going to take a pretty good set of fights. Like, yes, he lost a lot of tanks. Yes, he got pushed back a bit, but these are the kind of trades where the Terran can keep on pushing off of, and the Zerg is just rebuilding into the same army, which eventually the Terran is kind of meant to do very well against.
Yeah, it's too bad about those Hydras. They didn't have speed, so maybe they couldn't retreat anyways, but ByuN's double attacks are really working out here, but Solar is still stable, and if he takes a decent engagement, he will be able to get this 5th base, I think, properly secured, but that is the question. Queen still necessarily on that front line is a bit concerning sometimes, but they're doing an excellent job occasionally sniping medevacs and tanking tank shots, which, by the way, the tank count really has never gotten super high, but with Marine control being what it is for ByuN, they are absolutely the scariest thing here, and Solar is having trouble dislodging this particular attack.
He really, really is. Marines just continue on forward here. Hatchery taking some damage. Queens are still pushing through. And Marines just sit here, looking pretty decent. Obviously, the tanks are in the back, and ByuN, if he can just keep chipping away at that hatchery, eventually get it, that would be great. Solar knows he can't let that happen. The ByuNs have a good jump on the Marines. They get decent connections. Libs weren't here in time. Extra Marines showing up. We really just need to get rid of these few Banes, and as Solar turns, ByuN can grab them. Only one siege tank really left here, though, so he doesn't have that much splash, but the Liberators will help us survive on this high ground. This hatchery will go down in the end. And ByuN, how much further does he want to go? I feel like it's kind of time to just stop and maybe just regroup a little again.
I think so. Like, literally heal up his Marines, too. They are overstimmed at this point. Ling run by trying to find a 4th base, but there is not one, right? And, oh, okay, I was a little shocked right there. There's nothing to harass as ByuN asked for a pause. Not sure. Did you notice anything?
No, I just thought he was drinking his water straight away.
He
was like, PP straight to the water. Fastest water APM in the hole right now.
I wonder if he's feeling some delay, right? We saw that earlier.
Yeah, potentially. Couple things.
Hello.
Hello, beautiful audience. You know what's great with this setup? We can turn around and see them in person.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Hi guys.
I learned Swedish when I went to IKEA.
Yeah.
Which is great, by the way. Love it.
You learned Swedish?
IKEA? No, yeah. I learned some Swedish, right? Because on the bags they say hey.
It says hey.
HEJ, right?
That's what you learned.
I learned how to say hey.
I thought it was just going to be a bit more impressive than that. I'm not going to lie.
Nope. But you don't need to be impressive. Just be like, hey.
I feel like it would have been a better story if you just left it. I learned some Swedish.
Really?
Yeah.
You think that'd be a better story?
Yeah, when at IKEA I learned some Swedish. And then you just start talking about something else, and I was like, wow, that's really impressive.
Would you not ask me how would you learn Swedish?
I wouldn't do you dirty like that. I'm not demming.
Okay, all right, well. I love that when like the languages kind of like they share something, right? Mm-hmm. So like in French, you can be like, hello. And then you go to like Montreal and you go up to the people and you're like, hello, in the most American voice possible, just to make sure they don't like misconstrue that you can speak French.
Yeah, I got it. I got you. Quick technical pause is what's called on the screen. Been a pretty great game. I think obviously great series. The first one was very back and forth, and now the second game is. It definitely felt as though Solar was kind of getting off to something. You know, he defended, the map was becoming his, and now ByuN's the one fighting back. Just a really great display of what we kind of setting up into this, right? Where, quite frankly, these two are very well matched for each other, and as they're very well matched for each other, you kind of get this situation where they do go back and forth. There's never really a boring game between these guys.
Yeah, I mean, you're being proven correct, Wordy, about that. These have not been boring. They've been actually kind of hard to call, right? I think, to give ourselves some credit, we're like accurately calling some of these momentum changes, right? And who has the slightly better hand, but then we point out like, oh, well, a battle could change things around. And then, hey, battles go wrong for some people. ByuN gets surrounded. Solar takes has no defense around his 5th base, which has put him into a bit of an off position at this point. And he has now lost his 4th. As a reminder, as we finally get back into game. So we never knew what that was, but something happened. Now ByuN is ready to go. It was kind of actually a perfect time to pause too, as things had slowed down. He was regrouping, ready to attack on the front lines again. Solar looking to do some harassment, didn't find a 4th base. Now gonna try and bust into that natural, and there are too many units to really do that, so maybe when the 4th base is actually planted, he can go for it, or he can set up a bit of a surround with this, but that's not enough to really surround.
No, not really. It's such a small force, doesn't feel like it'll do too much. Single link comes in from the other side as ByuN is continuing to press on forward. Solar's getting the Vipers charged up. We know they are going to be big, right? Blinding Clouds can be massive against those siege tanks, maybe even some abducts if the situation lines up. And Solar preps for this fight. He knows he wants to take it. He's going to start pulling the trigger right now. First Blinding Clouds drop. There's that flank coming in just to give a bit of a better arc on this army. And ByuN has it back up against the wall. He has to lift up the Marines. He has to pull back. And Solar takes the best fight I think he's taken in a long time.
That was almost clinical, right? It was like, oh, is he in trouble? Is he having difficulties defending? He certainly did on the 5th base. He couldn't find anything with his run by. And then just all of a sudden, it was perfect execution, you know? Put that up on a class and teach people how to do that. As ByuN now is forced to retreat, he still has plenty of army. His 4th base is a planetary, so that is properly safe. And his +3 attack, at the very least, will be finishing very, very soon. So we have set ourselves up yet again into that late game, which Solar was able to win even after 2 denied lurker dens. In this game, he's not even trying to go for it.
Yeah, this game he's pretty happy just to sit here for the moment. The Vipers are out. obviously he feels like ByuN's probably stuck on this kind of Marine tank composition a little bit, so he's like, okay, well, my tech is set up to deal with that. I don't need to do anything else just yet. You see these Marines coming through, blasting a bunch of Banelings. Better start to this fight from ByuN. He's trying to drop in the main, but there's not much going on. He is killing 7 drones throughout this. The Vipers get some parasitic bombs on that picture-in-picture, but the main push still coming through. Queen's still being traded out, and ByuN just going to sit here pretty happy to keep on taking this fight. And I think overall, though, Solar's, as he cleans up, is going to get a lot of units. He did lose a hatchery. Solar's supply is just absolutely booming. His economy's not great, but if he goes right now, I think he's in a great spot.
That was kind of awkward, actually. ByuN might not have been dislodged particularly quickly because the Banelings were behind the Hydras and the Queens, but the Zerg army wasn't dying quickly either. And what was dying were Queens that I think at this point are fairly easy to replace. Not really impacted Solar's ability to max out, right, and get some creeps right on the map. As you pointed out, if he just goes right now, he will have a considerable supply lead, about 30 in army, right? But it is off creep. You got to respect the Sim City, and ByuN does have enough units to hold on for now. But ByuN's difficulty here is in that transition. His 4th base so late, no Marauders on the field, only recently adding on that 2nd factory, so now double tank production. He might eventually get to a very secure area, 4 bases, 5 bases on this map, but as of right now, pure Marine tank against someone who does have Vipers available. Well, I'm not sure they're actually ready to go quite yet. And a couple of Marines once again diving on in, looking at the hatchery, decide not to go for it. And a forced pickup. Maybe they'll find something elsewhere.
And they're going to try and jump in the natural. I mean, the big thing is that there's a push at the same time, but Blinding Clouds are going to start up. They're hitting a few of the tanks already. There's just not the Marines to stand here and really fight against this. And that means that once again, Solar's going to come crashing through. The tanks are all going down. The Marines in that corner actually did very well, and they're going to be maybe the saving grace of these last few moments, especially now these tanks get some extra Banelings as well. Solar distracted. They started off so well for him, but the last few moments have been a bit more disastrous. ByuN supplies right back up there, and these Marines are still jumping one side and another, just getting some extra kills, some extra value, eventually, hopefully, trying to find their way out.
Yeah, these two not making these games easy, man, for either guy. ByuN is struggling to find some concrete damage, but he is finding kind of these, outside the bases at this point, I suppose. Not quite able to deny the 5th and the 6th, but the creep spread, the trades on the Banelings, some of the Hydras staying over a little too long. It is starting to be a little concerning for a Zerg player, right? Especially if they ever just suddenly disappear. There's no Banelings. Like, that could be real trouble against this very heavy Marine, very fast style, but if you get that surround, if those Hydra numbers are just actually overwhelming, which it kind of looks like it is, well, then maybe the Marines won't be enough, and they won't be here, actually, even as the Lings start to dissipate. The Marines just will not cut it, and, well, there you go, actually. Solar, with that final battle, able to take a 2-0 against ByuN, kind of changing the narrative a little bit.